The woman meticulously planned a honeymoon filled with intrigue to kill the husband she once deeply loved. 3 days earlier, Liv accidentally discovered a terrifying secret on her husband's computer. Her newlywed husband had been secretly dating another woman, but that wasn't the real reason for her intense anger. What enraged her most was that her husband and the other woman were plotting to get rid of her. Liv never imagined that her husband, whom she had just married, would betray her so quickly. For Liv, who longed for a happy life, this was an unbearable blow. Just then, Will came home, not only with a large bouquet of flowers but also with a gold necklace for Liv. However, Will had no idea that his wife was about to unleash a series of terrifying acts of revenge on him. So this honeymoon was the perfect opportunity for Liv to get her revenge, but now she had to figure out how to ensure she could get away with it. However, she already had a brilliant plan in mind to lure Will, who had a fear of heights, to her side. Liv insisted that as a man, he had to overcome his fears, even continuously encouraging him. Under Liv's persistent prodding, Will finally mustered up the courage and nervously approached the edge of the cliff, but he clung tightly to Liv's hand, afraid of falling into the abyss. To ease his fears, Liv pulled out her phone and took a sweet selfie with Will, then naturally stepped behind him. At this moment, Will seemed to start relaxing and enjoying the breathtaking view. Just as he began to take in the scenery, Liv finally reached out to him.
Any chance for some help?
She never expected her carefully planned scheme to be ruined by a sudden appearance of an elderly woman, but if you think this would make her give up, you're dead wrong. That night, as her husband slept, even more terrifying plans began flooding her mind. For example, during camping, she could lure a bear with food under the cover of darkness, letting Will meet his end in his sleep. But that plan was too complicated. Another idea was to sneak up behind him and smash his head with a rock when he wasn't expecting it. But disposing of the body afterward would be tricky. If nothing else worked, she could distract him while he was driving, but the risks were still high, and she could end up dead as well. To eliminate her husband without anyone suspecting, it had to look like an entirely normal accident. Then, early the next morning, she found a rare opportunity while checking the day's itinerary. She planned to kill her husband in broad daylight in front of everyone and get away with it. So, while Will was preparing the gear, she secretly sneaked onto the kayak. She took out a small knife and cut Will's foot strap, then sat quietly beside him as if nothing had happened. Only when she saw her unsuspecting husband put his foot into the strap did she smile in satisfaction. As the kayak drifted farther away, the calm river waters started getting rougher. She knew that the damaged foot strap wouldn't hold under such turbulent conditions. Her husband would surely be thrown into the river, and no one would risk their life to save him. Sure enough, in the next moment, Will was swept into the water by an unexpected wave. But to Liv's surprise, Will swam back up. Despite her reluctance, Liv extended her hand to avoid arousing suspicion. When Liv was desperately flailing in the water, she never expected her husband to appear before her. Luckily, they both escaped death, and to thank each other for their bravery, they raised their glasses. Will had no idea that his wife wanted to kill him. But now, Liv's resolve began to waver. She wasn't sure if she should continue with her plan to kill her cheating husband. However, it wasn't long before Will's actions once again reignited Liv's fury. She discovered that her husband was secretly in contact with that woman again, and at that moment, Liv finally made up her mind. The next morning, they went on a planned forest hike. As soon as they reached the entrance of the forest, a stunning blonde with blue eyes called out to Will. Liv looked at the woman in front of her, then at her husband beside her. Her intuition told her that there was something unusual between the two. As expected, Will nervously explained that she was just a colleague, but to Liv's surprise, the woman not only called her by name but also stepped forward to hug her. Fearing he might give something away, Will quickly made an excuse to leave, but then Kara's boyfriend suddenly approached. During the introductions, Liv noticed her husband's discomfort, so she suggested that the four of them hike together. It was almost poetic how the lush green surroundings highlighted the complexity of their relationships. Soon, they reached a suspension bridge. As Liv, who was leading, instinctively turned to look back, she noticed the undeniable connection between her husband and this woman. Liv then struck up a conversation with Garth, subtly probing him about her husband and Kara's relationship. It turned out Garth was completely unaware of what was going on, but Garth wasn't the only one in the dark. Kara had also unwittingly become part of Liv's plan, as she was essential to it. Later, they arrived at a lakeside. Mesmerized by the stunning view, Kara couldn't resist and decided to go for a swim in the lake. At that moment, Will suddenly said he needed to use the restroom and headed toward the nearby woods, but Liv noticed that his eyes were fixed on the woman. Before Liv could react, Kara had already rushed off ahead. Seeing the anxiety in Will's face, Liv could no longer contain her fury. She swore to make those who betrayed her pay the price. Back at the hotel, the four of them began drinking heavily. Liv had no idea when she passed out, but when she woke up, her husband was already gone. Trembling, she approached the table and found Will's phone, along with a message she was never meant to see. They had arranged to meet at the waterfall at dawn. This time, Liv was furious. Ignoring the raging storm outside, she raced toward the agreed meeting place. Sure enough, at the edge of the cliff, she saw Will wearing a raincoat. Blinded by rage, Liv recklessly charged at him. Back at the hotel, Liv quickly washed herself off, deleted the incriminating message from Will's phone, and posted a picture of them together on social media. Then she stood in front of the mirror, practicing the alibi she had prepared. She knew the police would come to her first, but the next moment, there was a knock at the door, and Liv was shocked to see the police arrive so quickly. Liv couldn't believe her eyes. Will was standing right in front of her. Could it be a ghost? Had she not pushed her husband off the cliff? She opened the door again to confirm, realizing she wasn't seeing things. It seemed she had killed the wrong person. Terrified, Liv locked herself in the bathroom. If she hadn't pushed Will, then who did she kill? With this question in mind, she opened the door again and asked Will why he didn't come back last night. Will calmly explained that he had too much to drink and fell asleep in the hotel lounge. Could it have been Kara that she pushed off the cliff? Afraid of what might happen next, Liv hurriedly checked out of the hotel, but as soon as she stepped outside, she saw Garth frantically making a phone call. After inquiring, she learned that Kara hadn't returned all night, and at that moment, Liv realized she had indeed pushed Kara off the cliff. An anxious Garth quickly called the police and organized a full-scale search of the forest. Liv volunteered to join the search, but her goal wasn't to find Kara. She needed to find the necklace Will had given her, which she had thrown away before last night's incident. If the police found it first, she knew she would be implicated. Luckily, she quickly found the necklace at the spot where Will had dropped it, but just as she breathed a sigh of relief, the search team suddenly reported new developments. They had found Kara clinging to life near the cliff. This news hit Liv like a bolt of lightning, leaving her stunned and panicked. She knew the police would easily figure out who the culprit was. So, Liv and Will rushed to the hospital to check on Kara's condition. Fortunately for Liv, Kara succumbed to her injuries and passed away, giving Liv a brief moment of relief. But when she saw Garth devastated by grief, Liv was overwhelmed with guilt and retreated to a corner to cry. The situation escalated when Will, visibly shaken, approached her. He immediately confessed the true nature of his relationship with Kara to Liv. He did this out of fear that the police would suspect him, especially since they had met that night. Will then begged Liv to provide him with a false alibi, so he could prove he wasn't there and clear himself of any suspicion. Hearing this, Liv suddenly burst into laughter. At that moment, she realized just how pathetic the man before her was. But knowing she could also use Will to clear herself of suspicion, she agreed to his request. This way, she could hold something over Will and ensure her own safety. They then went to the police and gave a consistent statement, claiming they were together in their room that night to attend Kara's funeral. They had to cut their trip short. It was then that Will approached Liv, frantically sharing bad news about Kara.
She was murdered. They're saying that she was pushed.
Liv's heart leaped into her throat. She knew she was on the edge of disaster. She realized she needed to take drastic measures to clear herself of suspicion completely. What she planned next would leave you speechless. Liv then confronted Will, demanding he divulge every detail of his affair with Kara. Only by doing so could they figure out how to deal with any problems that arose. Fearing for his own safety, Will confessed all of his secrets. He even admitted to giving Kara a key to their house. Hearing this, Liv was shocked. She never imagined her husband was so deeply involved. But despite her anger, she had to hold it in. She knew she needed to destroy all evidence. Will went to his office and deleted all the emails he had exchanged with Kara. Then, under the pretense of visiting Garth, they went to Kara's house to retrieve something extremely important. Liv used the excuse of needing the bathroom to search the rooms, and sure enough, she found the key hidden at the bottom of a music box. Just when they thought everything was over, the police unexpectedly arrived, wanting more information about Kara, but Liv and Will had already agreed on their story, claiming they weren't particularly close to the couple, just ordinary colleagues. Unable to gather any useful information, the police let them go. But Garth wasn't so lucky. He was arrested as the prime suspect. The police had found a large sum of cash and a rental advertisement at his house, indicating he was planning to leave. Moreover, he had previously claimed that he and Kara were in a serious relationship, even discussing marriage, something that didn't match the investigation's findings. Facing police questioning, Garth didn't offer any defense. Soon, Liv and Will learned of Garth's arrest. At that moment, Will revealed a secret only he knew. On the day of the forest hike, Garth had proposed to Kara. However, Kara had flatly rejected him. Garth had no idea that the real reason for her rejection was that Kara was in love with Will. Upon hearing this, Liv immediately came up with an idea. She suggested, why not tell the police about this? That way, they could have a solid reason to shift all the suspicion onto Garth. But Will quickly dismissed her idea because they couldn't provide a credible source for the information. As luck would have it, the police made a significant discovery. While questioning the hotel staff, they accidentally learned about Garth's failed proposal to Kara. This gave the police ample reason to suspect that this could be his primary motive for murder. However, all of this was still just speculation, with no substantial evidence, but the focus of the police investigation shifted entirely onto him. Just when Liv thought she had cleared herself of all suspicion, her mother suddenly arrived unannounced. During their conversation, Liv's mother quickly sensed something was off with her daughter. Left with no choice, Liv confessed everything she had been through to her mother. That night, while the house was empty, her mother rummaged through Liv's things and found photos of her son-in-law's affair. The next morning, she took the photos to the police to expose Will, but Liv, fearing the police might investigate her again, finally confessed that she was the real killer. Her mother, panicking, quickly covered her mouth and warned her not to say such things. She comforted her daughter, telling her not to be afraid and that everything was the fault of that bastard. She urged Liv to put all the blame on him, but when she looked at the photos, she was shocked to find that the woman in the pictures wasn't Kara, but Kara's best friend. At that moment, Liv completely broke down. Unaware of this, Will invited Liv to dinner that night. He admitted his past mistakes and asked for Liv's forgiveness, even suggesting they should have a child together. To his surprise, Liv agreed without hesitation, not realizing that this was all part of her revenge plan. Soon after, Liv received a call from Garth, who had paid a large sum of money to bail himself out. He asked what Kara had said to her that night, but Liv didn't answer and simply told him to come to her house that evening, then hung up. To celebrate their victory, Will prepared a candle at dinner that night, but Liv's attitude took a sudden 180-degree turn. Just then, Garth showed up at their door, and the two of them were shocked. Garth pointed a gun at Liv and demanded to know what Kara had told her that night. Will, seeing this, quickly urged Garth to put the gun down and confessed his affair with Kara. Hearing this, Garth could no longer control himself. He had long suspected that his girlfriend had betrayed him. In a fit of rage, Garth knocked Will out and then pinned Liv to the ground. He wanted Liv to pay the price because she had never told him the truth. At that moment, Liv grabbed a nearby rock and struck Garth hard. Liv was soon released after being arrested because the police deemed her actions as self-defense. However, Will, wanting to repair his relationship with his wife, approached Liv once more to ask for her forgiveness, but Liv believed this was the perfect time to carry out her unfinished plan. She copied some important files from Will's laptop and, when he was off guard, tricked him into admitting that he had accidentally killed Kara. Will had no idea that Liv had recorded the entire conversation. The next day, they planned to fly out of town, and Will thought his wife had completely forgiven him. Just as he was dreaming about their future together, the police suddenly stopped them. Will still didn't realize the gravity of the situation until those two police officers showed up again. The police informed him that they had received an anonymous tip, which led them to investigate his affair with Kara. They even showed him an incriminating video, leaving Will completely bewildered. However, Liv's expression was even more exaggerated, and soon after, Will was immediately taken away by the police on charges of murder. A strange smile appeared on Liv's face as well, when the police asked her why she had provided Will with a false alibi. She claimed that she had been severely threatened by her husband and mentioned that on that night, he left the house wearing only a red jacket, returning the next morning completely soaked. But Garth continued to deny that he had killed anyone until the police presented the red jacket, which had Will's DNA on it. This meant that he would ultimately be unable to escape prison. Just when Liv thought her life was returning to normal, she suddenly received a call from her husband in prison. Liv decided to meet with him, and to her surprise, Will immediately claimed that he hadn't killed Kara, but that it was Liv. He said that if the case were re-examined, the real killer would surely be found. But Liv had already thought ahead. As a precaution, she had gotten pregnant with Will's child. Will, who had always wanted a child, would never want to lose his own. However, Will couldn't understand why Liv would kill Kara but not him. In the end,
Because I thought it was you.
Liv successfully cleared herself of all accusations and successfully carried out her revenge plan.